Within a few weeks of Shelter Institute starting, AP did a story about us that got published in every paper in the country. And one of the three major networks got a hold of the story, and they called us up on a Tuesday. And they said, we're coming up to Maine on Saturday, and we'd like to see 40 women raising a wall. Just like that. So we were in a panic. This seemed like a very important thing, so somehow we had to get a wall going up in 4 days. We did have students who were actually building homes, probably there were 20 homes going up in the surrounding area. And there was a nurse who had just finished putting up her pier foundation. And she was a single lady, and being a nurse, she had many nurse friends. So we immediately called her up and said, can we come over and push this along for this news crew? She was delighted. And we rushed over there with a class. We happened to have a class going. There were 45 people in that class. So in 2 days, we had the entire deck of our house built. It was 24 by 48. It was a pretty big house. And we also had the wall built. So when they showed up on Saturday morning, the wall was sitting there ready to go up. And there were some 35 single women, mostly nurses, with children. There must have been 20 children running around. The place was quite a zoo. And when this news crew showed up, they came in 2 enormous vans. And all these people poured out of these vans, and they started setting up things all over the place. And they were immediately all arguing with each other. It turned out that they were arguing because they involved several different unions. And people weren't allowed to touch each other's things. It was fascinating to watch. But anyway, all of a sudden it was 9:30 and somebody yelled, "Raise the wall!" So we all ran to the wall and started raising the wall, and it went up. The wall was 18 feet tall and 48 feet long. And it went up and up and up and up, and when it was perfectly straight, a cameraman who had climbed into an oak tree yelled out, "Oh shit!" And the wall kept going and fell off the building. It was terrifying. It fell off the building and broke in half. And I was just terrified because these kids had been running in and out underneath the building, and I was sure that the wall had crushed a half dozen of them. I ran down there, and by some miracle, nothing had happened to any kid. Well, it turned out that the reason he yelled, "Oh shit," was that when the wall was perfectly straight, he had run out of film. This was in the day when things were still done on film. So the falling wall was never recorded, which was fantastic for us. But he did record 2 children stealing the rope that had been put on the wall to keep it from falling. So all of that got recorded. So it was a bit of a disaster, but we went right to work. There were so many of us there. In 2 hours, we had the wall back together on the building, and then we raised it, and everything turned out fine. It did teach us a very important lesson, and I tell this story to every class. The lesson is that on a site, one person has to be in charge of the whole project. And what happened here is that the director from the news people thought he was in charge. The homeowner thought she was in charge. I sort of thought I was in charge. And so no one was taking responsibility for the whole picture so that everything would go smoothly and no one would get hurt. So that was the last time that 3 people were in charge of one thing at Shelter Institute.